Hello, welcome back. We're learning multithreading in Java. In this video, we're going to learn a new concept, which is making a thread sleep. And we're also going to create more than one thread. Apart from the main thread, we're going to try to create more than one thread and just see how those threads execute. Let's go ahead and create a new class. And we'll also learn why we would want to make a thread sleep. Let's create a new class and we'll name it sleep test. And also, as always, we'll create our main method. Hit finish. And since we are going to create new threads, we're going to implement runnable. Implements runnable. We're going to get an error because we need to implement run. So let's click this, which will create our overridden run method. And in here, let's create a new thread. That will be thread t1 equals new thread. And if you remember, we have to pass to the constructor a runnable implementation, which we already have. So we're just going to do new sleep test. And from here, we can just do t1 dot start. And in the same way, we're going to create another thread, t2, following the same methodology. So we're going to say new sleep test, and we're going to start this thread as well. And in between, let's just put some system out in main thread after creating t1. And same way, let's do another sys out here in main thread after creating t2. We're just going to see how all these threads execute when we get the messages, and that will help us understand what really is going on when multithreading is done in Java. So in this method, which is the run method, we're going to just do a sysout first, if I can type, and say in new thread before sleep. And to make a thread sleep, we again are going to use the thread class. You just have to type thread dot. If you scroll down, there is a static method in thread which is called sleep. So as you can see, it takes a long millisecond, right? So we can say 5000, which would mean the thread will sleep for 5 seconds. And let's talk about why we would want to make a thread sleep. So let's say we have a lot of threads running in our program, and at some point a thread no longer needs to execute, or you want to make the thread wait so that other threads get a chance to execute, right? You're just basically pausing this thread for a certain period of time because you want to give priority to other threads. Or if you think of a game example, right? Let's say you are the player, enemy hits you, and then you want to just not move the player at all for, let's say, 5 seconds because the player just got hit. So these are some of the examples of why we would want to make a thread sleep. And we're getting an error. Let's see what it is. It says we have to surround with try catch because we're not handling an exception called interrupted exception. So let's click this. The basic concept is the same way we can make a thread sleep, we can also interrupt when it's sleeping. So let's say a thread is sleeping for a minute, but then in 30 seconds, some condition gets satisfied when the thread should come out of sleep immediately. So at that point, we can interrupt the thread that is sleeping, which is why we have to catch the interrupted exception. Here, we're going to make the thread sleep for 5 seconds. We don't have to do anything here, but just because the sleep method is throwing interrupted exception, we have to catch it, which is why this is needed. Um, and after this, we can just say system.out.println in new thread after sleep. So we have a lot going on here. Let's just go ahead and execute and then see what we get. Right click, run as Java application. So we got the main thread up. Um, you can see the program terminated after some time. Let me just run it again. So let's clear this and then run it. Or before that, let me make it 10 seconds so we actually get time to talk about what's going on. And then do run as Java application. So we got in main thread displayed, and then in new thread this got displayed. We have two threads going on, so for both those threads we got something displayed. Now we are in a wait for both threads, and then the 10 seconds passed, and then we got in new thread after sleep, in new thread after sleep. We got it twice because we have two threads going on. So clearly the program got through the in main thread, came here for the thread 1, and then it displayed in main thread thread 2, and then displayed this for thread 2, and then both threads kind of went into a wait for 10 seconds. And then they both came out of the sleep and then displayed this, which is why we got two messages displayed here. So we clearly see what sleep is doing. It basically pauses the thread for the said duration, which is in milliseconds. This is a very trivial example, but this is also a concept that you would very much use, especially if you're doing game programming later on. Multi-threading and when to make a thread sleep, when to wake it up, those are all very critical concepts. So I would highly recommend to create more threads or even create another class that implements runnable that does more than sys out, right? And then basically play with this. Make sure you understand how the threads are kicked off and also how to sleep a thread, because these are all very critical things depending on what you go on to do with your Java programming later. Thanks for watching.